Right now, our own Angenette Levy from the Law&Crime Network was in that courtroom when the supposed arraignment didn't occur, but there was a court proceeding. Angenette, tell us everything you saw, everything about what happened, why it was put off. And I know that you have a guest with you also to discuss this. Welcome.
Yes. Well, Michael Troiano is a defense attorney here in Las Vegas. He is with me, and Michael, thanks so much for joining me. Linda, first off, Duane Keefe D. Davis walked into that courtroom. He has an attorney, but his attorney, E.D. Fall, cannot be here today. So this hearing was continued for 2 weeks until October 19th. So Keefe D. did not enter a plea. He will continue to be held without bail at the Clark County Jail. And so really nothing of consequence happened today. We were expecting him to enter a plea, but obviously he doesn't have counsel with him, but he has retained counsel. There was a woman who was here in support of him. There was also a rapper from Death Row Records in the courtroom. More media than anybody else, if you can imagine that. That's often what happens in these cases. A lot of international press here to cover this event. Michael, are you surprised at all by what happened today, given the fact that Keefe D. Duane Davis does not have an attorney or did not have an attorney with him in court?
No, I'm not surprised. I mean, this case has been going on for a little bit over 30 years now, and the fact that his attorney is out of California, had to be here on short notice, makes sense, and he's probably going to have to find local counsel as well so that he could pro hoc vice in and be able to practice here in front of the Clark County courts.
This case has been going on now, as you mentioned, for almost 3 decades. So a lot of people didn't think this day would actually come, even though a lot of people knew what presumably happened that night. Keefe D. obviously innocent until proven guilty. What was the reaction in the legal community here?
Well, once his home was raided, several months ago, it was expected, at least in the local criminal defense community. I mean, they typically aren't going to go in and raid a home, especially with a case with this much history, without expecting to find something, at least from the law enforcement perspective.
What do you expect to happen next at that October 19th hearing? Obviously, that will be an arraignment. He should enter a plea, but do you expect anything else to happen?
I would imagine within the next 2 weeks he's going to find local counsel so that his California attorney could pro hoc vice in, which will allow him to practice in front of the Nevada State Bar for these limited purposes. And then they'll probably schedule a bail hearing where his attorneys will probably file a lengthy written bail motion, and the state will reply with an opposition. And then there will likely be a hearing where the main detective will testify at the bail hearing. So it'll almost be a preview to the trial in a sense.
DA Steve Wolfson said that he continues to be held without bail, and they will continue to ask that Keefe D. be held without bail. Do you think there's any chance he gets any type of bond?
I mean, that's interesting. I mean, it's very difficult to get bond in a murder case, especially here in Clark County, because it's one of the only crimes where the state has the ability to request that, essentially, with no other open cases and convoluted issues like that. But the fact that the case is so old, and apparently he hasn't been in any sort of trouble in many recent years, probably leads to a puncher's chance. But I would imagine that he's going to be held no bail if I had to bet on it.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, it's a huge case. Is there any talk in the legal community about this? What's kind of the word on the ground, if you would, or the word around the courthouse among lawyers?
We all want to know who he's going to hire. Maybe me. Who knows?
Okay, but I mean, is there talk about this might be a tough case to prosecute only because he could say, I was just blowing smoke. It was a bunch of bluster, since his proffer from, the mid-2000s cannot be used against him, the proffer in which he laid out for investigators what happened.
Yeah, a book is a book, and a book can be interpreted as fantasy, just like a rap lyric can be interpreted as fantasy. And going back all these decades, they don't have the sophistication that they do now with GPS monitoring, but it seems very likely that they're going to at least be able to put him in Las Vegas that evening. What happens after that is going to be anybody's guess until discovery starts.
Because everybody else that was in the vehicle that night, the white Cadillac, the 3 other people are dead. Michael, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, and I'll see you later in a little bit. Okay, have a good one in court. Okay, so Linda, we expected maybe some fans to show up today, and we did have some fans show up for court, fans of Tupac Shakur's, and I'm waiting to kind of get them to come over here. They've been in high demand, Mario and Tina Scott are right over here, and we have been waiting to speak with them. Mario, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Mario, why did you feel the need to come to court today?
Well, other than being family, we just had to be here and see what was going on with the case, because it's been so long and so overwhelming. We just wanted to be present, you know.
You say your family. Explain that to me.
Yes, ma'am. My cousin. He's my blood cousin.
Tupac?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so, how old were you when Tupac died?
9.
Oh my gosh, so you were just a little kid, right?
I was a little kid.
What did Tupac Shakur, I mean, he was somebody that came from a somewhat rough background.
Yes, ma'am.
And, you know, that's hard. It's hard to get out of that. And he was able to get out of that and make something of himself. What did that mean to your family?
It was, he gave so much of our family member courage and, you know, just the outlaw spirit and, you know, never to give up and never to stop, because he never stopped. He was a genius before his time. Yes, ma'am.
You were a child.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you looked up to him. Tell me about that.
Much. Yeah, so much. I always heard his music, and his mom would tell us about, you know, all the things that he did going to school and all that. But, you know, I grew up with the memories more than, you know, having the memories myself, because I was so young.
And this is your wife, Katina.
Yes, ma'am.
Katina, you came obviously with your husband today. What was it like in the courtroom seeing Keefe D in cuffs in a courtroom, charged with the murder after all of these years?
It was an odd feeling. I experienced a lot of emotions, particularly being that he's always been so close. That's not even someone that I expected or suspected at all to be a suspect. So for him to be in custody and the suspect, and to even have a suspect after all of this time, just a lot of excitement, anxiety, anticipation, just trying to see how this is all going to work out, because all of this is just so surprising.
Mario, did you think there would ever be an arrest? I mean, the word was out that Keefe D was giving interviews on different YouTube channels. He had written this book. Did you ever think anything would happen?
Never, no ma'am. Never. It's been so long, you know, more than half of my life. So, no, we never thought it would be, you know, justice. It's been so long.
Were you surprised on Friday or even back in July when they raided Keefe D's house?
Most definitely. Yes, ma'am. The whole family was surprised, and we were so happy and elated and so emotional. It was just like it happened, you know, all over again. Yes, ma'am. We was definitely surprised.
How's the rest of the family doing? I mean, he has a brother, older brother, Mopreme.
Yes, ma'am.
I saw his father on a YouTube channel speaking about some things, and I don't know exactly how old that interview was, but the family had to have been frustrated over the years.
So frustrated, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, because it's like, you know, it happened right on the strip, so for it to be hardly any evidence, or they didn't have anyone in custody for years, it was just, you know, like, they was not trying to bring justice for Tupac. So to finally get justice, it feels great.
I talked to one of the first officers who was on the scene and found Tupac shot, and Suge Knight was shot as well. And he said that night nobody saw anything, nobody was talking, people in the entourage, things like that. What would you say to people about that whole, like, don't talk, that whole no snitching kind of culture that exists? Maybe it was more hardcore back then, but what would you say to people who have information about homicides and are fearful to talk and tell what they know?
I would say if you have any information on homicides, you would want to treat people how you would want to be treated if it was you in a situation that got murdered. If you think about it, you know, you would want people to come forward and speak on the behalf of the dead, you know, individual that's passed away. So don't hold back information. Valuable information that you know on a murder case is super valuable. It's not like a death case or something, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe if people had cooperated, this wouldn't have taken 27 years.
Yes, ma'am. I doubt it. Yes, ma'am. It was a lot of cover-ups, but they finally got, you know, justice.
Mario and Katina, if you could just stay put for a second, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Will you be back here for the October 19th hearing? Okay.
Right now.
Okay, I'll just stay put there for a second if you would. So thank you so much for talking with us. Okay, so Linda, there you heard it from Mario Scott. He is a cousin of Tupac Shakur, was 9 years old when his cousin was shot to death on the Las Vegas Strip. And so they are here to support the prosecution, to show up for Tupac Shakur and the rest of the family, and they plan to see this through.